joining us today is the amazing Beth Iaciofano. And Beth, first of all, thank you for joining me. And second of all, I want to flip the scripts a little bit. I know that podcast hosts often introduce their guests and there's this whole spiel. But today, I want you to introduce yourself. And I want you to think about it more than just the what you do, because I think there's more to us than what we do. So no time limit. How would you introduce yourself?
I am a teacher, healer, spiritualist. I am a transformationist. All the great things. Not just what I do, but who I am. And who I am kind of comes together with what I do. So if I were to explain who I am, I think that's it. If I were to introduce myself.
I love the word transformationist. That's really powerful. As soon as you said it, I went, it's not really something I've heard much before. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me more about what you mean by that. Yeah.
Well, I'm in the midst of a huge transformation. And because I left a career, a teaching career of 17 years.
Wow.
And I'm now a life coach, a transformational life coach, neurotransformational life coach. So in that coaching program, I myself have been transformed. So through that program and through the exercises and through learning about the exercises and how to coach, it's actually coaching for me. So unpacking all the beliefs that I've carried from childhood that no longer serve me, and figuring out why I do what I do. And, those things that you say, oh, why do I keep doing that? That's what I've been figuring out. So that's what I mean by I'm transforming. And the beauty behind transformation is it's tough. It can be painful. But on the other side of the pain is something so beautiful and so natural. We didn't come here to Earth, this school called Earth, to struggle nonstop. We came to learn lessons, but we came to enjoy our life and to live the way we want to live. So I think sometimes we get in the way of that. Like our brains, our heart knows that, but our brains get in the way. Our body knows that, but our brains get in the way. Like your body can tell you that something's wrong, but your brain's going to shut it down and say, oh, you're fine. Just keep moving. Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
So if we can set aside our brains for a little bit and listen to our body, listen to our emotions and just tap into that, it's beautiful. And true transformation, I think, really comes from being able to listen to yourself. That's where it starts. Being able to listen to yourself, tap into your thoughts, tap into your emotions. Is what I'm feeling aligned? Is what I'm thinking aligned with my higher self, with what I want, with what I desire? If the answer is no, then a shift needs to be made. And we can choose not to do that shift, or we can choose to do it. And some of us choose not to because it's too scary. We don't want to face it. We want to. I tell my clients, you're used to sitting in a dirty diaper. You know what it feels like. You know what to expect from that level of dirty diaper.
Yeah.
And you almost don't even know how dirty it is because you've worn it for so many years until you start getting cleaner. Then you're like, oh my God, I carried that around all this time. And it's been eye-opening, which is why I say I'm a transformist. I mean, I love helping other people transform. Yeah. And just looking at it saying, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Or I never knew I was carrying so much. So it's that was a loaded question. Like, how would you describe yourself? Because I think we are so many different things. We don't know we're carrying around so much until we let it go, until we have someone help us. And if we could do it ourselves, we would. But it really takes another human being to help. And especially someone who's been through it. I love working with women who need to learn to trust again.
Yeah.
And whether it's trusting other people or trusting themselves, because if you don't trust other people, you don't trust yourself. You don't trust
Yes.
yourself to know that there's something wrong. So really, that's the beauty, and I just love this path, and it's not really completely different from what I was doing because I was a teacher, and I'm still teaching. I'm just doing it in a different capacity, and
Yeah.
I'm really tapping into that part of myself, that spiritual side, that intuitive medium side of myself when I work with clients. Like, okay, this client is saying this, and I'll say to myself, all right, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go to help this client? And it'll come in. And that took some time. That took a long time for me to learn how to trust that intuition, that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And now that I have it in spades, like I trust implicitly. I just know how things feel. This doesn't feel right. I need to go somewhere else. And I trust, I journal, I have all my tools that I do to help myself navigate this world. But it wasn't always that way. It's really only been within the past really 2 years that I've really tapped into it and changed. So I'm 56 years old, so I lived a long time without, not like I was miserable. I just knew there was something more that I was meant to do. So I don't think it's ever too late. It's
Right.
never too late. I don't care how old you are. It's never too late to do what's aligned with your higher self.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something that I think a lot of people listening will be able to relate to is that you just knew there was something more. A lot of us have this feeling like, not quite happy with where life is, and is this really all there is to it? But then we just leave the feeling there. Why is that? We have these feelings, but so often, because I'm saying we, because I've been in this situation before, but we ignore it and just sort of push on and go, yeah, whatever.
Well, I think it's fear. It's the fear of change. I think we don't want to change, and we don't want to sometimes admit that there might be bluer skies on the other side. But when we have this feeling, and I know I did, I had the feeling that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do anymore. But I loved it at the beginning. I became a teacher out of necessity, really, because I had my daughter and I needed a full-time job. I was going through a divorce. So I needed to make a decent salary and I needed to have hours that were similar to hers. So I listened to my intuition, and my intuition came actually through another human being. So she mentioned to me, have you ever thought about teaching? And initially when she brought it up, I'm like, oh no, I'd never want to be a teacher. But then, coincidentally, a couple of years later, it's exactly what I started to do. I'm like, this might be my path. And it was wonderful while it was wonderful. And I really did enjoy it. I taught 8th grade science, so middle school. And I was able to really help a lot of kids. And my philosophy of teaching was that I was more interested in their social emotional place than the content. So, and I wanted to teach them skills and tools that they'd need to be an adult, like time management and self advocacy and all those tools that we need as adults. Like if we're in a job and we don't know what we're doing, we better ask the boss. Or if we have work to do, we better have time management because we got to get our work done.
Right.
So I was all about teaching those skills and making sure that their emotional well-being was in place, because I knew they weren't going to learn science if that was the case. So I really focused on a lot of breathing techniques, and I had a ton of tools in my classroom. I had yoga balls that they could sit on, and wobble chairs, and stress balls that they could squeeze. I had crystals that they could hold, anyone that was into the energy. So I had all this stuff, which I kind of brought with me to coaching. So it's not like when I became a coach, I did something like completely different. It really, I was just incorporating everything I already was into just a different path. But I think so many people, and I know it was me, 5 years ago, I was like, I really need to be doing something else. I started to really feel uncomfortable and like unhappy, and there's got to be more. But it was a good 12 years where I was really, I was happy doing what I was doing. I was fulfilled. So it isn't like I was miserable, because that's not the case at all. But then I started to get where I couldn't do it anymore. I was too stressed. And so I decided to take a different job in the same school with a new curriculum. So I designed the curriculum, and I figured, oh, this will be it. I'll be working with 7th and 8th grade kids. I'll like this. Nope. Still wasn't fulfilled. So I had to sit and say, okay, can I see myself walking back in this building again in August? And my answer was no. So I took a huge leap. Not everyone needs to do that. I mean, I quit my job. I said at the end of June, the end of the school year, that's going to be it for me. And I do have the support of my husband. So that helps a tremendous amount. But I knew with the coaching, I knew I couldn't half-ass it. I was going to be all in. And working all day as a teacher and then trying to get coaching done, it wasn't feasible for me. And I knew I didn't want to teach anymore. I didn't want to teach middle school. So it wasn't fair to the kids, and it wasn't fair to me, because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do anymore. So I was one that took the leap, and I quit my job. And, gave them from January, middle of January, I let my principal know I was leaving at the end of June. It was the best thing I ever did. I never regretted it for 1 second, not 1 second. And it was hard too, Rosie, because I was making decent money and I had the health insurance. So that holds people back as well. They think, oh, well, I'm making, so much money that I don't want to leave my job. And you cannot make your life be about money. You can't. It's not energetically aligned to think, oh, I'm making this much money, or I'm going to get this job because I'm making this much money. And that's when people are miserable. When they get a job because of the pay, that's when it doesn't work out. Because it's never, if you're not energetically aligned and you're not doing what you feel like you're meant to do, you're going to, or you're just being miserable. And there are plenty of humans on this earth that are miserable doing what they're doing. But they're staying with it because they're afraid.
I think fear is a huge part of it. I know for me, fear has definitely got in the way in the past. And it gets me into trouble. Like I think our bodies have good intentions, right? Or our minds is trying to protect us. So there's that fear there. But actually, it's not always the right thing. When your body's telling you, whoa, something's not right here, you really have to listen. And something I'd love to hear your take on is, how do we learn to listen or even to trust ourselves? I believe a big part of listening to your intuition is actually trusting yourself. So how do we do that?
You have to start by quieting the mind. And that's what my whole coaching program is all about. And where you start is learning how to quiet the mind. Because you can't tap into your emotions and your thoughts until you can quiet yourself and block out the noise. And some people are really uncomfortable sitting in silence. So for those people that don't like to meditate, which is sitting, there's tons of different ways to meditate. It's not all sitting cross-legged saying Om. That is one form of meditation. Another form is just being mindful. So if you're out taking a walk, look around you. Pay attention to the trees. Pay attention to the leaves, to the birds. Oh, listen to that nice bird. Oh, look at that tree. Isn't it beautiful? Look at the colors in it. That is being mindful. That is taking your mind off of your problems. And that makes you feel good because you're enjoying what's around you. And once you can enjoy what's around you, then you can go to the next step and you can just say, okay, I'm going to sit for 5 minutes. and I'm just going to breathe. Breathing is huge. The amount of time that we spend shallow breathing is astronomical. Think about the last time you took a really deep breath in and let it out. Breathing is super, super important. And breathing in conjunction with the quieting the mind, then what you can do is start, for me, journaling is huge. Because what I'll do is I'll write a question. I use journaling in a couple different ways that might be good for your listeners to know. If you are feeling very anxious and you don't know why, write it down. Just get the energy out. Emotions are energy in motion. Emotion, energy in motion. When we don't release emotions, they stay stuck in our body. That energy, we are all made of energy. We're made of atoms. Atoms have electrons going around them. So our bodies are in motion at the cellular level. That's energy. So when you have an emotion, especially a strong emotion like anger or fear, and you don't release the energy in some form, that energy gets stuck. And if it gets stuck long enough, that's when you have back pain and you have headaches. And you can even create cancer cells because the cells aren't dividing properly, because they're not acting the way they're supposed to act. So stress is huge for body. We have body, mind, and spirit. The body needs that energy to be released. So for me, journaling is really important. It's a really important tool. I really don't use it anymore to get emotions out because I just have my other tools that I use in conjunction. But when I first started down this path, I was all in with the brain dump journaling.
Yes.
Literally, and if I didn't know what was bothering me, I would just start writing. I have no idea what's bothering me. I'm just going to start writing and see what comes out. I can swear. I can call people out. I can do whatever I need to do because no one's going to read it, and I'm not even going to read it again. It doesn't have to be legible. Sometimes my hand would just be moving, but it got the energy out. And then usually I'm crying at the same time because I'm releasing energy.
Yeah.
So once I was done with that, then I would sit with a blank piece of paper. And I'd write a question at the top. Whatever question I had, I would write at the top. And I'd focus on it for like 15, 20 seconds. Not very long, just long enough to read it a few times. Then I would start blindly writing. Because what's coming in at that point is message from spirit, from your spirit guides, helping you. So that is your intuition. When you think about your intuition, your gut, that's your guides around you trying to help you. They're always around there. They're always trying to help. So when I write that question, it's a question for them. It's for my spirit, and my spirit troop, I call them.
Yeah.
And you can only do that when you release the energy and you are comfortable with not knowing.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Comfortable with not knowing, because this whole world, quote unquote, I have air quotes, world is unseen, but we can feel it. Have you ever felt the little prickles on the back of your neck? Have you ever met someone and you're like, ooh, I get a bad feeling from that person.
Yeah.
That's energy. We can't see it, but we can feel it. So there's a whole world that is here to help us. We just have to be able to tap into it. And some people don't believe it because they can't see it. And I say, in order to see it, you have to believe it. They'll say, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. I say reverse it. I'll see it when I believe it. So for me, learning to trust starts there. It starts with quieting myself, using my tools to be able to tap in, and then trusting what comes through.
Right.
Part of what I had to learn to do as a medium was trust what was coming through, because I'd say, am I making this shit up? Like, where did that come from? Like, how do I know this person has all these Barbies and had the house and the pool, and like some things I would come up with, I'm like, where did that come from? I had to learn to blindly trust. If you are, let's say you're busy and you're I don't know, you're reading a book, and all of a sudden you think of your mother, and the book has nothing to do with your mother, nothing to do, and you all of a sudden think of your mom. That's spirit. That's not your brain, because you were focused on something else. So that the way I look at it is did I act? I guess Rosie, I guess I just get used to. It's practice. It's hard to. I never realized how hard it is to explain until I'm trying to explain it. I guess it's just practice. Writing the question, and then writing down whatever comes in without thinking. It sounds weird, but I'm not thinking. I'm just whatever comes into my brain. I'm writing down, and sometimes I think of words that I would never even say, and I'm writing these words down.
Wow.
So and that's my intuition, and that is from my guides. So from the time Hannah was little, my daughter was little, I started to pay attention to the way I felt, and I started to ask for help, and I started to read more about energy, the science of energy, and how it works, and how your thoughts work, and the power of your thoughts. And I started watching other mediums. For some reason, I was and now I know why, but I was very much drawn to John Edwards, Sylvia Brown. And they reintroduced me, because I think my higher self already was introduced, but they reintroduced me to this world of energy and how we can tap in, and how no one is really gone. It's just their body's not here anymore, but their energy is still here, because energy is neither created nor destroyed, just changes form. So I started to tap into that, and I started to see things that I couldn't explain anyway. There was no explanation other than someone heard me and was giving me a sign. So that's all part of learning to trust your intuition. And so it's being awake. It's paying attention to what people are saying to you once you're trying to really delve into this world, you have to really be aware. Be aware of the signs around you. Be aware of who you meet and what they say. Because energy is like attracts like. So any thought you have, you're going to attract evidence to support that thought.
Right.
So if you're thinking negative thoughts, I'm going to have a bad day, guess what? You're going to collect evidence that's going to support that. And that's the law of manifestation. It's a law of attraction. It's a law of physics. So it's not just, woo-woo stuff out there. It's actual physics. Energy is physics. So I think all this stuff together just really led me down a really cool path where I'm just being led every single day. It's opening. The path is opening in different ways. And I trust. I blindly trust, which wasn't easy for me to do, which is why I love working with people who don't trust, because I know exactly. I had walls up. I hold people away. No, you're going to hurt me. So all this stuff, I knew. I that was me. Even though I was picking up pieces of energy throughout Hannah's whole life. And I say Hannah because she was the catalyst for this, really.
How has life changed for you since you've fully learnt to trust yourself, trust others, and embrace this energy work? How is life different now?
It has changed completely.
Yeah.
I still get stressed. I still allow all those emotions that humans have, anger, frustration, all that. But what's different is that I'm able to navigate through the emotions much quicker.
Right.
So I still feel it. I allow myself to feel what I'm going to feel, because it's a human emotion. It's a human whatever. Like my husband just got out of the hospital, so this past week's been quite nerve-wracking. Hence the cold, because I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't getting enough sleep. But I'm able to navigate my emotions much quicker because I trust that I am on the path I'm meant to be on, because it feels right. It feels too right to be wrong. So that's how I knew that what I'm doing, that's when I decided to walk away from teaching. That's when I knew that it was the right choice, because it just felt too right. I felt so good with just thinking about doing this work. And every time I'm on with a client, it's so fulfilling. So, but the energy work is such a huge, that's who I am. The coaching is secondary, really, because the spiritual being that I am, and my trust and energy and how it works is, there's no doubt whatsoever in my mind. And I think that helps my clients, because they know how strong I feel about it, and the evidence to support it is, I've got evidence left and right that since I decided to step away, and that was the key, I took the leap of faith. So everything fell into place. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to happen. It wasn't really hands on the steering wheel, like, oh crap. It was like, I'm jumping right now, because I know I have a parachute, and that parachute is my spirit troop, and my higher being, my soul, knowing that I'm not meant to do this anymore. I have other things that I'm meant to do. And that came from just trusting my intuition and knowing. So I think what's important for people to understand is, how do you feel doing your job?
Right.
How do you feel? Not on just one day. I mean, in general, because we all have bad days at our jobs, right? But in general, does it fulfill you? And my job as a teacher fulfilled me for a certain amount of time. I was very happy doing it. But then I wasn't. So, okay, there's a shift. Now I'm not feeling good anymore. So now it's time to look, where can I go? What do I want? So that's what you need to tap into. How does your job make you feel? How does your relationship make you feel in general? We all have bad days. We all have fights with our partners, whatever. But in general, when you think about it, do you have a good feeling or do you have a bad feeling? If you have a good feeling, then you know you're aligned. But if you don't, then there needs to be a shift somewhere. And that's where you can literally write down on a piece of paper your desires. That's what I do with my clients. What do you want? Let's say there's no limitation, there's no boundary. Because they'll say, oh, I don't think that's ever going to happen. No, stop right there. Let's pretend you can have whatever you want. Let's write it down.
Yeah.
And then I also have them write down the emotion they feel when they're thinking about having this. Pretend you already have it. What do you feel like? And they write those emotions down. And then I have them stick it on the refrigerator so that they can add to it. They can look at it every day. They can sit in it. Because here's the thing, Rosie, and a lot of people don't understand this. When you think about your problems and when you focus on your problems, you're just creating more of the same. If you could get out of the situation by focusing on your problem, you already would have. So what you need to look at is the contrast. Okay, this is what's making me unhappy, so what's the contrast? Because that's what I want. That's what I need to focus on. Because if you focus on what you want, you're going to fix the problem.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense.
Yes.
But I think so many of us fall into the trap of focusing on everything that's wrong. I don't want this. And it ends up in this downward spiral, and it doesn't help us. So I love your reframing of, well, okay, let's write down your desires. And there's no filter of, is this feasible? Is this realistic? Because so often, and I'm guilty of this, we over-intellectualize things.
Yeah. Our brain gets in the way. Our brain gets in the way. It really, really does. And so that's why I really encourage my clients to pay attention to what they're thinking. Is what you're thinking what you want? If it's not, change it. because that's what you're going to bring in. If you focus on the negative, and sometimes like when I'm journaling, I'm getting the negative out, I'm getting the energy out, but I always end it with a positive, a gratitude or something. So I'm not saying that you stick your head in the sand and you don't acknowledge these emotions and you don't acknowledge that you've got problems, but your focus has to be elsewhere. Otherwise, you just keep collecting evidence to support the problem that you have.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why. Why do I keep doing this? Why does this keep happening to me? It keeps happening because you're thinking that I'm not worthy, or I'm going to get hurt. This guy's going to hurt me. That guy's going to hurt me. He's going to cheat on me. So that's what you're constantly thinking. And that's what happens. And then you say, see, I told you he was going to do that. But you created it.
Right. We get in our own way, don't we? And often don't even realize it. Yeah.
But that's part of the beliefs that we have that sometimes are forced on us as children by our parents. If let's say mom is afraid of dogs, so she doesn't want you to be around dogs because she's afraid of them, but now you're afraid of them. But it's not really your fear, it's her fear. But it's just been forced on you. So some of the beliefs we have aren't even our own beliefs from our own experiences. They're beliefs from our parents. So we have all this crud that we drag along in the little red wagon through our whole life, and it gets in our way. It gets in our way. It's the story we tell ourselves. We need to tell ourselves a new story, and it comes from looking at our beliefs. Is this belief serving me? Is it mine? Number one.
Yeah.
Is this my belief? And then if it is because I had experiences, okay. If you can acknowledge a bad experience, that means you know the opposite. Because you know that that's bad. So that means you know what's good.
Right.
So that's the good news. So that's when you have to say, okay, I have these dueling beliefs. And I have an exercise that I do with my clients to bring those opposite beliefs together.
Right.
In order to work in your best interest. Because we do. Some people think money's evil because it makes people mean, it makes them, rude and whatever. And then you can also have a belief, money's good, I can help people, I can live a good life. So you've got these dueling beliefs.
Yes.
So it's figuring out how to bring them together and how to best serve you.
Yes.
We are our own worst enemies. Absolutely. And we create our reality. And we create it by what we're thinking about. So to the listener, pay attention to who you're bringing into your life, because they are mirrors for you. So if you're bringing people that aren't good for you, if that's who you're attracting, you got to look at yourself. Okay, what is it about me that's attracting these people into my life? Because that's where the change has to happen.
And I love what you were saying about beliefs, and that you have to question, is this my belief? This is something I'm so passionate about, because we just go along in life. We have these set of rules or unspoken rules and beliefs that we just take as the truth. When you stop for a minute, you're like, well, where did this belief come from? And like you said, it could be from your parents growing up, or it could be from just society in general and expectations. But when you stop and go, hang on a minute, what a load of bullcrap. And then going, okay, what do I believe?
Exactly. And what evidence do I have that I've actually experienced in person to support this belief? And if you don't have any, then you need to question that belief. Because you're not even basing it off of your own experience. You're basing it off of, like you said, society, your parents. And so much of it is just BS. Yeah. It's just BS. Because we're all human beings here, I believe, from the same source, from one source. So we're all souls from one source. So literally brothers and sisters. And we treat each other like we are like the worst enemies ever when we don't even know each other. You don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because of beliefs. And so it's just, I think another answer to your question of how has this changed you, I think I'm just awake. I've woken up and I'm aware. And that's the biggest thing, because I used to just walk through my life and just, blinders on and just go
Yeah.
day to day to day without really paying attention to what was going on around me, you know? So I think that's one of the biggest changes as well, in just a sense of my heart is open. I'm just calmer. I still have that masculine energy going on, get the work done. But I've got my feminine energy is coming out where it wasn't before. So,
Yeah. Life changing, it sounds.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the masculine energy people like myself, who you can rely on me to do anything because I'm organized and I want to get the job done well, and I'm going to put, I'm very sequential. There's a balance between that and the nurturing
Right.
side, and caring for other people, and caring for yourself, thinking about yourself and reframing the word selfish.
Oh,
I really
yeah.
had to do that because I used to think, well, I'm going to be in service of other people. And absolutely, I want to be in service of other people, but only when my cup is overflowing and I've got lots to give. Because otherwise, if I'm giving from a cup that's not full, I'm resentful. And
Yeah.
I'm giving because I feel guilty, or I'm giving because I don't know what they're going to think of me if I don't. So that causes resentment. And what does resentment do in the body? If you don't release it, it festers and it causes illness. So all these things, it's so important to pay attention to what you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and why you're doing what you're doing. Is it from a genuine place of, yeah, I have this to give right now. I have time to make these cookies for the school fair. So I'm going to do it. Instead of someone asking me to do it and I really don't have the time, but I say yes because I feel guilty, and then I'm resentful the whole time I'm doing it because I don't have any time to really do it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel
Right.
good. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, this time I just don't have the time. Or go to the supermarket and pick them up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think we need to really pay attention to what we're doing and why we're doing it. How does it make us
Yes.
feel doing it? If we feel wonderful doing it, perfect. You're in alignment.
Yes. Right. And this leads on perfectly to the question that popped up in my head as you were talking is, this is a bit of a tacky way of saying it, but what are the red flags and green flags? The red flags of, whoa, you're not in alignment here. Because sometimes people really struggle with recognizing when they're out of alignment. That can be hard if you're not used to it. So
Oh, absolutely.
how do we begin to recognize that? And then how do we recognize when we are in alignment?
It's the way you feel. Again, that's tapping in, that's starting from the very beginning of being quiet and noticing noticing what you're feeling. How am I feeling right now? All right, I'm sitting outside and I'm out in nature. What am I feeling right now? Not focused on any stressors. I'm just looking at the trees. I'm looking at the birds. I'm looking at whatever. Or if you are a city person and you can't get out into nature, listening to calming music. All right, how does my body feel? It comes from a recognition of how you feel, an awareness. Number one, being willing to do the work, and
Right.
being willing to take the time to notice. Or if you're watching a sunset, we can all see sunrises and sunsets. Okay, if you're a sunrise sunset person, perfect. How do you feel when you're watching it? That's what you want to tap into. Versus we all know how we feel when we're stressed. We can feel the tightness in the chest or the headache or whatever. So that's where it starts. It starts with awareness. Me sitting here right now, I'm completely calm. And I know what this feels like. I know what my body feels like being completely calm. So when you're not calm, like if I'm not calm, I have some place I can go to in my head very quickly to tap into what emotion I'd rather feel. And usually for me, it's the ocean. So I visualize myself near water somewhere because I'm a big water person. So that's what your listeners can do too, is anchor. It's called an anchor. Anchor yourself to something you'd rather feel. How would you rather feel? I'd rather feel peaceful. all right, what makes you feel peaceful? Then you have to figure out for yourself, when have you experienced feeling peaceful? And if you're not sure, because some people are like, I have no idea.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
imagine it. Imagine it then. Start from there. Imagine what not having the tightness in your chest would feel like. Because you know what it feels like to be uncomfortable. So say, all right, well, I wonder what it would feel like to not have this there. And because I guarantee if you know what it feels like to be uncomfortable, you do know what it feels like to be comfortable. Or you wouldn't realize that you're uncomfortable. So even though you may not consciously be aware, I can't think of anything right now. If that's the case for anybody, then I would invite you to start journaling and get the energy out, because then you'll be able to tap into, okay, what makes me feel calm? Because so if you're really one of those people like, oh, I don't even know what makes me calm, I have no idea, then you need to grab a notebook and a pen and you need to get the energy out and just start writing. I have no idea what to write, but I'm kind of pissed off at my boss. My boss did this today, and just go with it. Sometimes I do 3 pages of that.
Yeah.
And get the energy out and then try it again. Okay. Take a deep breath. All right. When have I ever been calm? What would it feel like to be calm? And then try it again. So most of us can find some part of our life where we were calm. Something.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you need to start looking. Go out for a walk. Listen to different types of music. Then start searching for what makes you calm. Because really, that's the biggest thing. All of this, the trust, the intuition, all of it starts with being aware of what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And for some people, that's scary.
Yeah.
But that's the way out of the dirty diaper. Because, and listen to your body. Your body knows first. Your brain tells you otherwise, but your body always knows. So if you're feeling pain somewhere, or you're feeling a tightness in your chest, or you're feeling something, that's energy that's trapped. Don't let your brain tell you, oh, you're fine, because you're not. Otherwise, you wouldn't be feeling that way. Something needs to be released. And it's up to you to release it. No one else can fix you, and it is not your job to fix anybody else. You're actually doing a disservice to someone when you're trying to fix them, because they need to learn those lessons themselves.
Yeah, that's a powerful way of putting it.
Otherwise, they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Because imagine if you just keep saving somebody, and they're going to keep bumping up against the same lesson time and time and time again. So because you're uncomfortable watching someone go through a challenging situation, you're going to deny them learning that lesson earlier. So you're actually prolonging their agony. And I know as a parent, it's hard. My daughter's nonverbal. It's hard to watch her suffer. But this is her path. It's her life. They're her lessons to learn. Can I be there to encourage her and hold her up? Absolutely. But I'm not going to take her lessons away from her.
That's a trap I've fallen into, especially with my sister, just trying to help and fix the situation, because she's 10 years younger than me. And it is really difficult to see someone you love in particular struggle and have a hard time.
Yeah.
But like you say, you're not really helping them when you do that.
Nope.
You are doing them a disservice. So that's been a huge shift in my thinking. And
then also look at it this way. Next time your sister's going through a trying time, ask yourself, okay, what is her soul learning from this lesson? What is she learning? Is she learning to persevere? Is she learning if she doesn't do what she's supposed to do, this happens? Is there a natural consequence that occurs? All this is learning. Right. And ultimately, it's her choice to either learn the lesson or not. It doesn't mean you can't help her, but helping is different than enabling.
Right. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yep. It's hard, especially for parents that have kids that are struggling, and you want to, as a human being, we want to help each other. And we can, as long as it doesn't get in the way of someone else's progress and learning.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tradition on this podcast. There's a question I like to ask all my guests, and I'd love to hear your answer. So can you tell me, what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom. Freedom to me is being authentically me. Being in true alignment with my higher self is pure freedom. So I think if I were to think of one word, if I could say freedom equals, I'm going to say alignment.
That really resonates. I love that.
Because if
Freedom
you're
equals
aligned,
alignment.
you're feeling free, you're feeling relaxed, and you're feeling fulfilled and purposeful. And that for me is the ultimate freedom. So
I
yeah,
can just feel
alignment.
it in my body as you say that. And it, like, this is something I want to help other people do, live in alignment, women in particular, because so many of us are out of alignment, and it's heartbreaking. That's
We're
no
doing what
way
we
to
think we
live.
need to do or what society tells us we're
Right,
supposed to do. And
right.
we always put ourselves last, and everyone comes before us, and and none of that is unless so if that is you and you are in alignment doing that, then that's perfect. Like if you
Right.
feel that's the key. Everyone's got their own path here, so there's a job for everybody that's what they're meant to do. So jobs that we would look at and say, oh, I would never do that job. There are some people that came here to do that job, to learn lessons from that job. So someone who feels purpose and fulfilled, true purpose and fulfillment from putting other people first, God bless. That's good. But it's when you know, like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. Like you got a little twitch, like, oh, something's gone. Something's wrong here. I don't feel quite right. That's when you need to
Right.
question.
Yeah. And it can be really scary going on this journey. But as someone who's on it, because I think it's a continuous journey,
Oh yeah.
it's amazing. Life is so much better, and I think impatient is the word. I'm impatient to just get other people on this journey. I can't force people, but I'm just so fired up, and I want other people to experience life like this, because living in alignment, it's beautiful and it's so grounding, and I have
Yeah.
never felt more joy.
How long have you been on this path?
Huh. That's a good question. I think I've always, I guess you'd say,
I
gone
should
against
say
the status quo and consciously. Ooh,
consciously. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because like you said, it's kind of always been there. Consciously,
Yep.
I would say 10 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But I've got braver as time has gone by in actually fully embracing that. And it's tough, but I think the most recent thing I did last year, I was in a very well paying job. It's at a university. I'd never been paid so much in my life. My boss was wonderful. But I wasn't happy. And I kept talking myself out of it, like, no, you got good pay and everybody's so proud of you and you got this amazing title. I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm falling into this trap again. And eventually I just went, no, bye. I put in my notice. I was respectful. I really respect my boss. She's lovely. I said, look, I need to do something else now. I need to take the next step. And it's not here. I just felt amazing. And here I am. I've got my podcast, which that's not earning money, but I've never felt more fulfilled. I'm starting a business supporting women, launching an online community for them to help them live in alignment. And it's not about the money. It's, you're saying pay attention to how you feel. Oh, I feel amazing. And yeah, the journey started 10 years ago in a conscious way. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. I can't tell anybody how to live, but I highly, highly encourage people to lead with curiosity and just allow yourself to consider, what do I truly want from life?
Yeah.
What do
Yeah,
I
and that's the
actually
thing.
want?
Yes. What do you actually want? So one of my clients, when I asked her that, she said, "You know what? I have no idea."
Right. And that's
She
where I
had no
was.
idea.
Yeah.
She was just going along. She's a nurse
Uh-huh.
and had just been going along doing, and didn't like it was like a question that she was dumbfounded. Like, I honestly don't know what I want. So that's where you need to start. Like, what do you want? What do you want? And it could be money. Money can come
Right,
too.
right.
Yeah. Because once you're living in alignment, everything's gonna fall in. It's like abundance just rolls in because you're living in alignment. And I agree with you with the podcast, because my podcast as well isn't making any money, but the amazing people that I'm meeting are
Oh, yeah.
so energetically aligned with me. It is
Yes.
amazing how I'm pulling in the people I'm meant to pull in. It's really been something that started just for me, wanting to make connections with people,
Yes.
has turned into like the best thing, because I absolutely love just talking. I never would have been like that. When I was
Yeah.
teaching kids, I'm like, I don't want to talk to the adults. I'm working with kids, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
having so much fun talking to all these different people from all over the world, different time zones all over the place. And it's just been really, really cool to know that we're all the same. We're all the same. We have the same problems. We have the same energy is energy. You know what I mean? So it's almost like mind blowing sometimes when you think about it, that we're all just living this life in I don't know. I don't even know where to go with that, but it's just really cool. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't even know where to go with it. I
Yeah.
just am loving meeting these people that are just like me, but they're, some are male, some are female, and they have different jobs. And I don't know. I don't know. It's just been really, really very eye opening for me, for
I
someone who is
agree.
quite sequestered in my life. I never really met people from all over the world before. So again, here we
Yeah.
go. Beliefs. There you go. What beliefs did I carry about these people that I never even met, and now I'm meeting
Mm-hmm.
people, and my experiences have been wonderful.
Yeah.
So there,
Yeah.
more evidence.
Beth, thank you so much for being
Thank
so
you.
generous with your time and wisdom. I've got so much from this conversation, and it's just so refreshing to hear different points of view. And I love your take on what freedom is. Freedom equals alignment. Like, honestly, it's the first time I've heard that out of all the guests I've asked this question. Um, I love it. And it's so simple, but it really resonates. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to talk to you again, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.